So, hi everyone.
Hello.
So, I'm here on this very exciting day because we are finishing my book, Thriving at Nature's Pace. This is a book I wrote about a new approach to climate change. And my mum, Eleanor, she asked me what's it about. So, we started a few months ago, quite a few months ago now, maybe about December, January, I think, to read it. And so we're finishing the book. We're on the last chapter, conclusion. Anyway, the book is about how, with climate change being what it is, the being driven by oil and gas and coal that we use, which we need at the moment, how we can actually allow ourselves to stop using them by giving them back to nature in exchange for a coin, Thrive coin. And we can use this coin instead as a currency that we can go around and do whatever we want. And by committing not the oil and gas and coal that we're using at the moment, but the ones that say we may be using in 15, 20 years time. So that allows us a time scale to draw a line on it to make the changes, and the coin becomes a new currency for us to pay for making the changes that we need in that way. And the book has gone through all kinds of ideas and so on. And the essence of this is that this is actually an emergent approach. It's not about governments doing this, it's about us doing this. That we can use our money and our efforts and things that we do to go into agreements with to buy one of these barrels that are in the ground and convert that and take a Thrive coin instead. And so it becomes like an exchange of money, and because money is basically the efforts that we do to make things, so it's an exchange of our efforts for a different sort of future. So it becomes a case of building a future we want. So that takes us to the conclusion, and the conclusion chapter is called The Game of Thrive, which is basically the game I think we are on, the game of Thrive. Whatever happens, climate change is a certainty. There is no point in fearing certainties. They simply have to be accepted. Acceptance allows people to go past denial and bargaining. It takes them past anger and depression to see the reality and take steps forward. The reality is the world will face increasingly difficult headwinds to maintain its growth, and the physical scarcity of resources will increase. In this world, policymakers will continually and mistakenly insist on creating money to increase demand. This is a stagflation world where prices will keep rising and growth will stay stagnant. At some point, people will eventually come to accept that this is due to climate change, and the stagflation will continue until there is enough desperation to put a lid on it. This lid currently does not exist, even if individuals, businesses, and communities do not use oil and gas and coal. They have no agency to ensure that what they do not use cannot be used. Thrive contracts change this. People can sell the oil, gas, and coal they do not use to nature to be forever kept in the ground. Nature is now an economic agent, and by minting a currency, nature's currency, Thrive coins, this changes economics to be at nature's pace. Will people do this? There is no point in looking to governments. Oil, gas, and coal are too far in every part of everybody's lives for governments to be able to regulate them. Governments themselves need them, and they will need more as their own finances become increasingly stretched. It can only be individual people, their businesses, and their communities. The power comes from the collective money that people spend. That's the force that can bring businesses and governments into line. This is a new layer of global governance to manage global commons. But again, will people choose this? People make choices every day, important ones and trivial ones, and regardless of whether they're important or trivial, the choices determine how they thrive. But choices do more than that. Choices are how people interact with each other. They are how people make connections with each other and create the society they want. Choices make the impossible possible. They give individuals the power to influence each other through what they choose themselves. That is how economics develops. It develops through the choices that each individual makes. It is reflexive. These choices influence others so that the choosers themselves are influenced. This creates a complexity that brings about emergence. That emergence with Thrive contracts is a Thrive economy at nature's pace. The team at Rethinking Choices has been experimenting with choices through that game of Thrive. In this game, the players are potato farmers. The game is simple. A player can choose to harvest. If they harvest, then there are no potatoes for others. If another player harvests before them, then there are no potatoes for them. The players can choose their own ways to play. They can play for themselves, or they can play with concern for others. Any rules are entirely up to the players themselves to create, and any player is free to disregard or break any rules they may have agreed to. Incredible complexity arises. The first player who harvests breaks the ice and often sets the tone. Inequality appears rapidly. How people then choose rapidly changes the situation. The game goes through levels where the cost of living is added, then players risk losing all their harvested potatoes. These are changes in external circumstances that mimic actual life. Each time they change, the choices evolve. At higher levels, players can form businesses, and the whole structure of social and financial capital shifts. At the highest level, climate change enters. This connects all the players to the same risks. Climate change connects even those players who want to be independent from others. The choices become collective. The boundary of personal and collective wealth becomes fuzzy. When businesses are introduced, wealth typically becomes hoarded, but with climate change, people choose to blur the boundaries of personal and collective wealth. But interestingly, the game is not played in the wealth, it is played in the interaction of the choices. It's a social game. It brings out the non-verbal communication between players, and it brings out the significance of 10 potatoes given to another versus 10 potatoes kept for oneself. This is social signaling as well as verbal questioning, strategizing, sympathizing, and scheming even. The players end up discussing issues of fairness and justice without these becoming moral statements. They show this by their own actions. At one point, they may collaborate. At another, they may act independently. Then there is the planting. When no one plants and everyone harvests, nature is left empty with nothing left to give. Some generously plant for themselves, and in doing so, they bring others to do the same. At other times, they set up rules for planting, and some abide religiously while others pick and choose. The players discover for themselves how they are the ones in control. Each one is equally important. Any one of the players can trigger a change in the direction of play, and any one of the players can be the one to harvest the next bumper potato crop. Each is free to choose. The game develops social capital first. The players find out if there are others who will help them. They stutter at first in finding their own patterns of engagement that fits them. These engagements differ even for the same players with different game. They evolve according to the external conditions and to the character of the players themselves. Then economics emerge. No one needs to be in charge. The governance is by consent, and the governance evolves so that it remains by consent. When climate change is introduced after the introduction of businesses, where the game typically shifts into a hoarding phase, it throws a spanner into the hoarding. Anyone can be affected. There is no telling in advance. It brings a social capital that has been developed to the fore. Who can the player trust to help them? What governance do they want for themselves? It turns the hoarding into a self-interested concern for others. All the elements of human interactions come out in the game of Thrive. What's surprising is that with only 2 or 3 players, the play is often vengeful and tit-for-tat-like. But where there are more players, the social interactions bring out the best in human psychology. Every game finishes at some point. Time runs out one way or another. The question in the game of Thrive is what happens with the potatoes left unharvested. Do they have value by themselves in the ground, or do they need to be harvested? Each game comes up with its own answers. Some see them as intrinsically valuable, maybe even more so than the potatoes that have been harvested. Others see them as worthless. Potatoes are only useful if players are there to consume them. That question lies at the heart of climate change. Nature has value, even if modern humans are not there to consume it. What if they then choose not to consume it? Are oil, gas, and coal valuable if modern humans do not extract and use them? That is the question posed by climate change. To answer it is to thrive at nature's pace, and the answer is an emergent economics for oil, gas, and coal. That's it. I'm really proud. I've read the whole book to my mum.
Yeah, có this chị chạy,
Huh.
you có mỗi lần xịt cấm đầu tay hay có ground rồi chứ mà.
So my mum is asking, if the potatoes, if no one picks them up to eat them and leave them on the ground, what happens? And that's exactly it. Because what happens when they're left in the ground is that other things can come and eat them. and then grow into more plants, and then that goes in other things, and you get an abundance of nature. But when we take them out and we don't think about all those things, then the soil gets depleted, it gets dyed, it gets dried. So there's a balance. We do need to eat some of them, but how many and how much, and what's enough?
Yeah, but too much. We can't consume all the potatoes.
And too much, we can't consume all the potatoes. But we have gotten to a world where we think we have to consume everything there is, which is why people get so fat. Because we overconsume everything. You know, when you talked about your toothbrush,
Yeah,
you know, where we can just use it up first before we switch to the next. We don't do that. We always just switch to the next before it's used up. And that's why we need more oil and gas and coal, because we don't finish things off until we go on to the next. And because we are used to thinking of that, we get worried. We think we won't be able to do that. And so we try to make sure that we don't have to. And then that then tells us to say if we can make sure other people don't get worried because of it. But sometimes being worried about some things is actually good. It makes you really appreciate what you have. And I think that's the point to thriving at nature's pace. We have to appreciate what we have. That's how nature thrives. As opposed to simply have. I think.
yeah,
So Mum agrees with me. Okay, so thank you everybody. That was the last of this episode. I have one other book called The Unsustainable Truth. We can start that next. But I'm going to start making this into playlist properly and advertising it along and promoting it about. So thank you for being with us. For my mum, Eleanor.
yeah. Bye-bye.
So she's been really pleased with this. And myself, David. I'm Dr. David Coe. I'm the author of Thriving at Nature's Pace. Please consider listening to her playlist. Get a copy. Recommend it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.